Oh, hi there! Welcome to another episode of the Okanagan Gardener and Forager channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about some plants that can help with headaches. What happened to me was I took a knock to the head the other day and I got a bit of a concussion, so I had some lingering headaches for a few days. Now let me be clear, I'm not offering medical advice about how to treat concussions. But I will say, if you're like me, I try to avoid pain-killing medications whenever I can. There's actually quite a few effects. They call them side effects of things like over-the-counter, whatever, different painkillers. I like to just say that they're effects because they are. But anyway, I try to avoid them. So I'm going to talk to you about some plants, and I think it'll be 4, maybe 5. We'll see how I do. Different plants that can help relieve headaches. The first plant that can help with headaches is catnip. Scientific name is Nepeta cataria. And I kind of feel like sometimes that I keep on trying to talk, or I cover catnip. I've covered catnip a few times, and I think it's a really great plant. And I don't know if anybody else cares as much about it, but I feel like, kind of like in Mean Girls, I'm trying to make something happen, but whatever. Catnip to me is a great plant.
Catnip is the best. Okanagan Gardener and Forager.
Stop trying to make
Catnip
happen. It's not going to happen.
And yes, the leaves and the flowers can be useful to relieve headaches. And if you want to identify them, it's a member of the mint family. So it has a square stem, and they're covered in little white hairs pretty much all over on the stem, on the leaves. The leaves are heart-shaped and toothed. Heart-shaped leaf with toothed edges, lighter on the underside. And the flowers come at the end of the stalk, a terminal cluster at the end. And these are actually late in the season, and I cut them. I cut off the older flowering part, and they're growing back, which is nice. And before the winter, I'll be able to harvest them and collect them and have them for teas and stuff over the winter. And another thing that catnip's good for is you can use it, make a tea for helping to relieve upset stomachs. The next plant that can help to relieve headaches is feverfew. Scientific name is Tanacetum parthenium. Now these are, if you watch, I'll link to it for a longer video all about feverfew. It's late in the season and I've cut these down, so there's no flowering heads left. And perhaps if I can manage to do it, I'll insert some video of the flowering heads here. And what the flowering heads look like, they're daisy-like in clusters, but they're small, like small daisy-like in clusters. The leaves are fern-like, and they're pinnately lobed. And if you look very closely, you kind of have a point at the end of the leaves. There, I think you can see there, at the tip of the lobes, they're kind of pointed. And they smell. The leaves smell like really strong. And if you crush them up, I think it smells good. And breathe in deeply, it can help relieve congestion. I want to show you some other feverfew plant that are volunteers in another garden because I don't know, I'm stoked about it. These are some other another feverfew plant here, and maybe you can see it on the far side over there. There's another one. They just showed up in these gardens, which is pretty cool because we didn't plant them, but they're here now. So feverfew is known for being used long term, like taking the leaves and flowering heads and using them because they're quite bitter, but using them like in a tincture or in like capsules over time to help prevent migraines. But they also have been used to some effectiveness to help treat headaches. And they are also useful for, and have been used for, relieving the pain of arthritis The next plant that can help relieve a headache is mint, and this one here is a wild mint. Its scientific name is Mentha arvensis. And a few ways to tell mints that they have some traits they have in common is the square stem that I hope you can see. There. Four-sided or square stem, and the leaves come off the stem. They're opposite, so that means they, from one point, come off in two directions. There. And this wild mint, compared to, say, spearmint or peppermint, the leaves come off the the flowers come from the axil. That's the point where the leaf meets the stem. And the leaves are kind of an elliptic shape, I suppose, with toothed edges. Now you can take the leaves and the flowers of mint to make a tea, which is calming to the stomach in a number of ways and can help relieve a headache. If you're ever in doubt about mint, I think give it a smell and you'll be able to tell pretty quick. And it's edible. Here's another mint. This one is peppermint. Scientific name is Mentha piperita. I thought it was spearmint, but my wife corrected me, and I think she's right. You can tell peppermint from spearmint because peppermint has a little bit of a stalk on the leaf, but peppermint and spearmint, you can use them pretty much the same ways. They are both like the wild mint. They can help soothe an upset stomach and relieve a headache if you make a tea from the leaves and the flowers. But one difference is there's this cluster of flowers at the end. You can see there's a little bit of one there. Over here, kind of all done, but same idea. The flowers come in a cluster at the end, and yeah, use them the same. The next plant that can be used to help relieve headaches is wild roses. The scientific name for wild roses is Rosa species, and this one I'm not totally sure which one it is, and if anybody is sure, then please let me know. I think this is a Nootka rose. Scientific name is Rosa nootcana, but the good news is there are several species of wild rose in this region and throughout North America, and the 4 that are in this region, they are all relatively interchangeable and have similar medicinal uses. Now, to tell roses, there's a few things that are common about them. They are a deciduous shrub, which means the leaves fall off in the winter, and maybe most notable if you're walking through them are the thorns and prickles that are on the stems. And yeah, there you go. They are sharp. Another thing is the leaves. They have typically, this thing here is a leaf, this whole section here. So, but they typically have 5 to 7 leaflets. These are leaflets. There's usually 5 to 7 of them, but maybe I've seen 5 to 11 with toothed edges. And they have a flower. The flowers are gone now, which are typically pretty showy pink or like scarlet, I think, color. Pink or like deep, like pink crimson color. I don't know what color is pink. They're five petaled pink flowers, and they get these rose hips, which can persist long into the winter. And the rose hips are useful for a whole bunch of things medicinally, but are an excellent source of vitamin C. But it's the rose petals that have actually been used for headaches. So those are gone. But if you're like me, I like to make note of things, and then perhaps I could come back later next year or something when you need them. And I'll tell you something about wild roses. These rose hips, which are super high in vitamin C, they have only the outside part is the edible part. And I'll carefully try to show you, because there's these they're like these see those little hairs there? Those, if you eat the seeds, those hairs can be very irritating to the digestive tract and can cause what's been described as itchy bum. So don't eat the whole things. Yeah, you don't want those hairs. And I think I said at the beginning that I was going to try to say 4 or 5 different different plants that can be used to help with headaches. And I was hoping I'd be able to find some pineapple weed, Matricaria discoidea, but they grow in the spring, and sometimes you can find some that are still hanging on, but I couldn't. So we'll call that the 5th, pineapple weed, Matricaria discoidea, and maybe I'll show some images of it rather than just me talking. And anyway, those are some plants that might help with the headache. And if you're like me, I try to avoid the different over-the-counter meds as much as possible, because if you look at the effects, they call them side effects, but I'd say they're just effects. If you look, you'll see they can do a lot of things that maybe you want to avoid. So anyway, if you liked the video, then please give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.